morning. Welcome to Creede, Colorado. We just got here last evening, enjoyed dinner, got down to almost freezing overnight, so we are finally geared up and ready to go. We are still hoping to meet our friend Richard today. It took him a little longer to drive across the country than he expected, and we're going to go out and explore some mines and trails and see a little bit of the history and the beauty of Creede, Colorado. Hope you'll join us. In 1889, this valley had only about 600 residents. But then Nicholas Creede came to the area and discovered silver. After that, everything changed virtually overnight. Within only a few years, that population exploded to over 10,000 residents. And this became one of the fastest, wildest, richest boomtowns in Colorado history. Prospectors swarmed to the place in hopes of finding their own silver vein, or working for some of the mines with names like Amethyst, Holy Moses, Commodore, Last Chance, Kentucky Belle, and King Solomon. Tent camps sprang up along the canyons of Willow Creek with names like Jimtown, Stringtown, Spar City, Stumptown, Amethyst, and Weaver. By 1892, there were 30 saloons and 100 makeshift hotels. Bat Masterson of Wyatt Earp fame was a saloon operator here. And Bob Ford, you know, the guy who shot Jesse James, he operated a dance hall and saloon here until 1892 when somebody came in and shot him dead. Creede also accumulated several other colorful characters, people like Calamity Jane, Poker Alice Tubbs, and Soapy Smith, who had escaped from law enforcement crackdown in Denver to name himself the boss of Creede. Creede wasn't just a rough and rowdy mining town. It boasted many brick buildings and even had an electric system. As a song penned by the editor of the local paper, Cy Warman, said, "It's day all day in the daytime, and there is no night in Creede." During its heyday, Creede struggled with some fires that ran rampant through the tent cities, and the occasional massive spring flood that tore down through the canyons, destroying mines, buildings, and tents. Only a few years later, in 1893, the Great Silver Panic and crash led to a mass exodus of 2,000 people. Today, Creede is only home to a few hundred residents, but you can practically not even throw a stone without running into remnants of that historical past. Tourists now come by the thousands every year to visit this place. They stop and see the Underground Mining Museum, visit the Last Chance Mine, or like us, drive the 17-mile Bachelor Loop. The road is a fairly easy gravel and dirt road that winds slowly up through scenic and majestic canyons, while those remnants of history look down. The loop includes 16 different interpretive stops. If you stop at the Creede Visitor Center, they'd be happy to sell you a guidebook. This track can be driven by two-wheel drive vehicles, although they do recommend that you drive it the other way around to avoid some of these steep and narrow roads going in. You can also drive this track with a bicycle, but with elevations ranging from 8,500 feet all the way up to 10,000 feet, I can't imagine trying that. About a third of the way into the Bachelor Loop, we reached a decision point. You see, there are several other four-wheel drive trails that run off of this loop, and we had to decide, were we going to stay on the original loop, or were we going to explore this little road way out here? Today, we decided to take the road less traveled. This new track we took was a much more moderate road than the Bachelor Loop. I would not recommend two-wheel drive. In fact, as you'll see in a minute, I wouldn't really recommend a lot of four-wheel drives on this road either. 130 years ago, this track wouldn't be nearly as scenic and peaceful as it is today. Instead, I imagine it would be overrun by prospectors. The lives of the miners that flocked to places like this were hardly idyllic. The mining camps generally were comprised of thousands of tents, and illness often ran rampant. Miners seldom, if ever, bathed. They would work long hours, 10 hours or more, chipping away at the rock, with nothing more than a candle in their helmet for light. Miners regularly ran the risk of being crushed, burned, or even poisoned by the air in the mine shafts. I have no idea how much those miners stopped to help each other when they needed it back then, but today, if you see a site like this, make sure you stop and help.
I love that until things like this, what happened to all of us? Just to remember, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't want to forget this.
But then you can look back and say that was the worst thing that happened and the rest of it went great.
Yes.
This couple ended up with a flat tire because the profile on their wheels and tires were just too low for the terrain. When we happened upon them, they were struggling to try and release their spare tire so they could replace the flat.
Did they get it?
I think I better put some air in it.
Yes, definitely put some air in it.
What was that, huh? Oh, what's that?
After getting the couple back on the road and wishing them well, we came to this track. This sign says, "Beyond this point, motor travel restricted. Stay on designated route." With a sign like that, it usually means very good things to come. So if you saw the intro video of this, and views that look like this, well, you're just going to have to come back next time to see them. Thanks for joining us. Now go out and find your own adventure.